March 1931. A man sits on a steel beam 400 meters above the streets of New York City. He is eating his lunch, a sandwich wrapped in paper. His legs dangle over the edge, swinging gently in the wind. There is no harness, no safety net, no rope, nothing between him and the pavement below, except air. This was not reckless behavior. This was just Tuesday, the Empire State Building, one of humanity's greatest achievements. Built in just 410 days, a monument to ambition, engineering, and speed. But behind every steel beam, behind every rivet, behind every floor, there were men, ordinary men, doing extraordinary work, in conditions that would be considered criminal today. This is their story. At its peak, the Empire State Building project employed over 3,400 workers, every single day. They arrived before dawn. They left after dark, 7 days a week. No exceptions. The official death count? 5 workers. Only 5. That is what the history books tell us. But here is what they do not tell you. In 1931, there was no requirement to report workplace deaths. Companies simply did not count them. If a worker fell, if a beam crushed someone, if a man disappeared, the work continued. Historians now estimate the real number was somewhere between 14 and 42 deaths. We will never know for certain. Because in 1931, these men were replaceable, and everyone knew it. Who were these men? Many were immigrants, fresh off the boats from Ireland, Italy, and Eastern Europe. Men who spoke little English, but understood one universal language: desperation. The Great Depression had just begun. Unemployment was skyrocketing. Families were starving. And here was a job. A dangerous job, yes, but a job. The pay was $15 a day. Good money for the time. Very good money. But there was a catch. The most dangerous jobs, the ones at the highest levels, paid the most. And the men who took those jobs, they were called sky boys. You have probably seen the photograph. 11 men sitting on a steel beam, eating lunch, hundreds of meters in the air, smiling, relaxed, as if they were sitting on a park bench. That image was staged for publicity, but the reality it represented was absolutely real. These men worked without fear, or at least they learned to hide it. Among the workers, one group stood out: the Mohawk ironworkers from Kahanawake, a reservation near Montreal, Canada. These men had a reputation. They walked on narrow beams like other men walked on sidewalks. They did not seem to feel fear, at least not the same way. The legend says they were naturally immune to fear of heights, that it was in their blood, their culture, their DNA. The truth is more interesting. The Mohawk workers trained from childhood. They learned balance. They learned to read the wind. They learned to trust their bodies in ways that factory workers and farmers never could. It was not magic. It was skill, hard-earned generational skill. And New York's skyline? It owes more to these men than most people will ever know. The work never stopped. Rain or shine, summer heat or winter freeze. In the summer, the steel beams became so hot they could burn through gloves. Workers wrapped their hands in rags, soaked in water that evaporated within minutes. In winter, ice formed on every surface. Workers chipped it away with their tools, knowing that one wrong step meant death. The wind was the worst enemy. At 400 meters, the gusts could knock a man off balance. Many workers tied themselves to beams with rope. Not because the company required it, because they wanted to survive. There was no safety training, no protective equipment beyond a leather hat, no regulations, just a man, a beam, and the sky. The Empire State Building opened on May 1, 1931. President Herbert Hoover pressed a button in Washington, and the building's lights turned on for the first time. The newspapers celebrated. The architects received awards. The investors counted their money. But the men who actually built it? They went home. They looked for the next job. Many never saw the inside of the building they created. Today, when you look up at the Empire State Building, you see an icon, a symbol of American ambition. But if you look closely enough, between the steel and the stone, you might see something else, the ghosts of forgotten builders. If this story moved you, subscribe to Forgotten Builders. Every week, we uncover the human stories behind humanity's greatest structures. Because buildings do not build themselves. People do, and their stories deserve to be remembered.